Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another edition of Bad Deck Monday, where we take some fun ideas and see if we can put them to work. In this video we're going to be taking a look at a deck revolving around the one and only Forretress. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Forretress has the ability Thorn Tempest. When you play this Pokemon, from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may put one damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. So the idea here is we're going to be trying to abuse Forretress's ability to just keep putting tons of damage on our opponent's field. This is kind of similar to Flygon's Sand Slammer ability, but instead of working in between turns, we get to just do it every time we evolve. So we have a 4/4 Forretress line, and then 4 Devolution Spray. So after we evolve and use Thorn Tempest, we can devolve our Pokemon, bring the Forretress back to the hand, and then next turn we can do it all over again. So the entire deck revolves around Forretress and evolving as many times as possible to take advantage of that ability. Now, to use it even more times, we have Sableye. Sableye has Junk Hunt. We can take back 2 item cards from the discard pile, so every time we use Devolution Spray, we can bring them right back and just keep trying to evolve as much as possible. That is the only goal of this deck. Use Thorn Tempest over and over and over and over and over until we finally wear down our opponent. Now, to take advantage of the damage we're spreading out on the field, we're going to use Dusknoir as well. It has the ability Sinister Hand. We get to move damage counters around our opponent's field as much as we want. We have a 2/1/2 line of Dusknoir and only 1 rare candy. That's because we don't really need Dusknoir immediately. We can afford to take our time, and if we happen to discard rare candy along the way, we can simply Junk Hunt for it with Sableye. So seems pretty simple. We also have some other attackers here. Dredagon is just a nice attacker for 2 energy to get some damage on the board to do 90 after something's been knocked out, and then a Mewtwo EX as well for the same reason, just to get a big burst of damage at some point if we do need to take down some big bad threat. We also run tons and tons of item cards in this deck because we are relying on Sableye so much. So let's take a look at some of the other item cards we're going to be using. Enhanced Hammer can slow down an opponent that relies on special energy too much. Hypnotoxic Laser can potentially put somebody to sleep or force them to move out of the active spot if you poison them. We have a Pokemon Catcher to try to manipulate benched Pokemon, bring up something with a heavy retreat cost so we can mess with them that way. Startling Megaphone can discard Pokemon tools like Floatstone and Muscle Band sometimes. Silver Mirror is good against Team Plasma Pokemon. They can't hurt us, and with Sableye Junk Hunting it over and over, we could sometimes just win the game that way. Those are really the disruptive cards. We also have a Life Dew as our A-Spec card. Since most of the time we're just going to be using Junk Hunt, we're going to have Life Dew in the deck. So when your opponent knocks out a Pokemon, they take 1 less prize card. So basically we put it on Sableye, and then when one Sableye gets knocked out, it doesn't give up a prize, and then we Junk Hunt the Life Dew to get it back, and then that Sableye probably gets knocked out, but then the next one has a Life Dew, and they won't take a prize on that one, and it just makes it extremely annoying and extremely difficult for somebody to take prizes on these Sableyes. And it'll just allow us to have more turns to Junk Hunt, basically. So Life Dew is our A-Spec. We don't see that card very often. Other cards we have in the deck: 3 Ultra Ball, and then 3 Level Ball, and then 1 Heavy Ball, just to search out our Pokemon quickly. 1 Escape Rope as a switching card. What else? Super Rod, this can shuffle in. Usually going to shuffle in Sableye and some Darkness Energy to get those back. Our supporter engine is pretty simple. We have 4 Random Receiver, 4 N, 4 Professor Juniper, and then 1 Pal Pad to shuffle those in case we happen to run out of our supporters. We can get them right back. We can always Junk Hunt for Pal Pad, Junk Hunt for Random Receiver. We'll pretty much always have access to supporter cards just with these simple cards in the deck. And I believe that is every trainer card in the deck. Our energy just 6 Darkness, 2 Double Colorless to power up our attackers. It is worth noting that Forretress does have Iron Crash as well, 20 plus 20 for each colorless and your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So for example, if I were using Iron Crash against an opposing Forretress, it would do 80 damage. 20 plus 20, 40, 60, that's 80. Okay, so here's the Forretress deck. It's going to be a fun deck for sure, but it's not going to be a super competitive one. 10 damage just isn't what it used to be. Back in the days of Jolteon EX, had the Pooka Power Evolutionary Thunder, I think that's what it's called. It had the exact same effect. Put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon when you evolve it. Nowadays, things don't have quite as low HP as they used to. Now we see 170 HP regularly. So let's go ahead and take a look at this Forretress deck in action. See if we can pull something off with it. And we're going to wait to see if I'm going first or second. Looks like we will be going second in this game. So I'm going to start off with a Mewtwo and then a Duskull as well. When it says, hello, good luck. And I say, good luck back. And we're going to go ahead and bench that Duskull as well. So Mewtwo is not the ideal starter. We're trying to deny prizes with Life Dew, so having a 2-prize attacker on board isn't great, but Mewtwo is just too good to pass up in this kind of a deck. I could have actually run Yveltal EX, but since it's Bad Deck Monday, I figured we'd do Mewtwo instead. So right off the bat, we see Kangaskhan EX and Spritzy and a second Kangaskhan EX. So we can see right away this is one of those Mega Kangaskhan Aromatisse kinds of decks. So we did feature that deck on this channel before, so we know exactly what to expect. It could be a little bit different, but that's going to be the basic strategy. Take advantage of the 230 HP Mega Kangaskhan EX, and then Max Potion with Aromatisse moving the energy around. So I gotta say, it's going to take a lot of Thorn Tempest to knock out a Mega Kangaskhan EX. 23 to be exact. I'm just going to go ahead and use that Pal Pad right now. We'll just shuffle in an N and be happy to end the turn right there. Getting a couple Pineco down and a Sableye with a Darkness Energy. That was a pretty good first turn for me. Turn 2, we have a pretty late out there. Double Forretress. We can Thorn Tempest twice, put 20 damage on my opponent's field. And then hopefully we can get that Mewtwo out of the active spot to start using Junk Hunt with Sableye. And we'll go from there. So we see a Fairy Garden coming down and an Ultra Ball. After another energy goes on to the Kangaskhan EX, Victini, and a Chorus for 7 cards. So my opponent's going to get off to a pretty nice start here. Just leading off with that Kangaskhan EX. Can start using Kindred Kick, or we may see the Mega Evolution, and Mega Kangaskhan can start wham, bam, punching pretty soon. We'll have to see what's going to happen. And a Level Ball goes for another Spritzy, and I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. My opponent's actually retreating to the Xerneas and using Fairy Transfer, but I'm happy because my opponent filled his bench. And that is the biggest thing that can happen as a damage spread deck. Right? This just allows you to get more and more damage on your opponent's field, because now everything takes a damage. Every time we use that Thorn Tempest, that's 60 damage we do. And that's when this can start to become pretty efficient. So we did get the DCE on the Mewtwo. That means I can go ahead and retreat into the Sableye. I contemplated using X-Ball there for 60, and you know, I might actually do that instead of retreating. Reason being, if I retreat and then Junk Hunt, I'm going to be left in an awkward spot if my opponent knocks out that Sableye. I won't really have anything to promote. So I may as well just do the 60 damage with X-Ball right here. Also, I don't see any way for my opponent to really knock out Mewtwo EX right here. The bench is full. We see what is out there. And we just see a couple Kangaskhan EX. Nothing knocks out Mewtwo in one hit. So let's just take this turn to X-Ball instead of retreating and using Junk Hunt. Sometimes, you know, the strategy of the deck is going to be to Junk Hunt, but sometimes you just kind of take a step back and say, oh, maybe it's better here to not Junk Hunt. And that was one of those spots, I think. So we see a Lysander going for the poor Duskull here, and a Kindred Kick from Kangaskhan. That is some alliteration if I've ever seen it or heard it. And I'm going to go ahead and bench another Duskull. My opponent, rightfully so, recognizes how strong Dusknoir is by taking out the Duskull, but in this situation I don't really mind because I have a second one ready to go. We're going to go ahead and I used Thorn Tempest already. Got another Devolution Spray. Bringing Forretress back to the hand. And here I have a couple cards I'm just thinking about dumping. I have a Silver Mirror that won't be useful at all against my opponent's deck, so I'm just going to go ahead and attach it to Sableye. And I don't think Pokemon Catcher is going to be too useful anyway, or too useful either, so I may play that. It won't be useful because of the Fairy Garden. I can't really trap anything active. I don't really plan on attacking most of the time in this deck. We're just using Thorn Tempest a lot, so we burn the Catcher too, and it doesn't hurt to have it in the discard pile as well. Later on, we might junk hunt for it if we really need it. And I'm just going to grab 2 Devolution Spray out of the discard pile. And we've actually built up quite a bit of damage so far. We have 30 on everything. And then 90 on that Xerneas. Because we did hit it with an X-Ball for 60. So that's a lot of damage. That's what? That's at least 180 plus. So that's 240 damage we've dealt already with just a single X-Ball. And then a lot of Thorn Tempest. So if you do get the time to Thorn Tempest over and over, I mean, you will do enough damage to win. And that's kind of how this is playing out so far. Kind of funny. So I'm going to go ahead and promote the Sableye right here. We'll go ahead and I guess we can bench another Pineco in this spot. Go ahead and Thorn Tempest, Devolution Spray twice, and then attach a 3rd energy to Mewtwo, just threatening the X-Ball. And then we'll go ahead and end my opponent down to 4 cards. And this is actually starting to get pretty scary if you think about it. I'm going to go ahead and junk hunt again. I'm going to take a level ball just so I can grab another Sableye after this one inevitably gets knocked out, and then a Devolution Spray. So we'll be able to Thorn Tempest next turn, not once, not twice, but thrice, 3 times. And we're going to start to knock things out with that Thorn Tempest. That Spritzee is in danger already. That Xerneas on the bench can go down. The Victini can go down. I mean, we can realistically do quite a bit next turn. My opponent's getting Dowsing Machine for Lysander. Going after Duskull once again. He really doesn't like those Duskull. And in this spot, let's see, there's 3 energy on Kangaskhan. 3 energy on Mewtwo. I think I just promote Mewtwo and we're going to start the X-Ball here. And just say, you know what? Why not? Let's just do this. Let's Thorn Tempest, get a knockout on the Spritzee. Can Devolution Spray, Thorn Tempest once again. Knock out the Victini. We can Devolution Spray a 2nd time. Thorn Tempest for a 3rd time, knocking out Xerneas. And I did get an N off of the prize, so I might just do that instead of play the Juniper I had. We'll put a 4th energy onto Mewtwo EX. And boy, this got out of hand very quickly. I just took 3 prizes with Thorn Tempest, and we're going to take a 5 prize turn after this X-Ball. So this is pretty silly. I'm going to bench another Pineco just so I have more options to evolve Forretress. And yes, we just took a 5 prize turn with Forretress and Mewtwo, just like that, getting the life due out of the prizes. And if my opponent doesn't top deck something here, that Kangaskhan EX is going to go down. Now, this kind of a deck usually does play lots of Max Potion, so we're probably going to see that. But if there isn't a Max Potion, I think this game is actually over, which is pretty silly when you think about it, because we weren't really doing anything except evolving Forretress for like 3 or 4 turns. And now, finally, we X-balled for a knockout. And that was a pretty funny 5 prize turn. It didn't look like that was really going to happen. And then just everything exploded at once. And we got 5 prizes. And my opponent still has to take 3. And we still have life due. And we do see the Jirachi EX come down after the Ultra Ball. So we'll probably see a big supporter like a Juniper or a Colress or something like that. And there indeed we do see Colress for a nice 7 cards. And this game isn't over by any means since there is Max Potion to deal with. But I still think this is pretty funny. I mean, how ridiculous of a turn was that? Okay, so my opponent can Fairy Transfer. I'm going to take a look. We have used 3 Devolution Spray so far, but I can always just take a turn to Junk Hunt. I mean, the worst thing that could happen here, Well, it depends on what my opponent plays. If we do see a Mewtwo EX out of my opponent, I could be in some trouble. Since, all I would have to do is pray that my life do stayed on there after that. Since it would be 2 prizes, then Sableye most likely gets knocked out. So we're going to hope my opponent doesn't play Mewtwo. But otherwise, this is not a very big deal. And wow, my opponent actually leaves Kangaskhan active and passes the turn. Max potions the Aromatisse instead of healing off the Kangaskhan EX. That was a very bold move. If I had had a single Forretress and an energy, I would have just X-balled for the knockout there. But since I don't have a way to use Forretress, instead of just walking into a max potion, I'm going to go ahead and just retreat and go ahead with the big old hunt for junk. Get back a Devolution Spray, definitely, and then probably a random receiver, just so I can get a supporter back into my hand. So yeah, this is crazy. I could actually go for a catcher, too, instead of the Devolution Spray. Try to catcher out the Aromatisse or the Jirachi, but nah, let's just take the Devolution Spray. Seems a little bit better. Okay. So, if my opponent doesn't get a Max Potion or a Mega Kangaskhan next turn, then I simply X-Ball after a couple Thorn Tempest. Not really a big deal. And then we see Skyla, so obviously we're going to have something here, not just going to be a pass with Kangaskhan active again. But man, I just want to stress how awesome this was when we got that 5 prize turn. That's pretty silly, but that's what happens when you have a few low HP Pokemon against a deck like this. Hey, if we just face 60 HP Pokemon all day, this deck's pretty sweet, but when we see those 180 HP monsters, then we start to struggle a little bit. Having to use Thorn Tempest 18 times to knock out a Kangaskhan EX, not so good. So we do see a Max Potion going on to the Kangaskhan EX, and then a triple draw. Huh. Interesting. I'm going to go ahead and random receiver for the Juniper. Very nice that we got that instead of an N. So we're going to go ahead and Super Rod. We'll shuffle in Sableye, Duskull, and a Darkness Energy. Go ahead with a Devolution Spray. Thorn Tempest. Might as well use the Startling Megaphone. And then Juniper. And oh, we have an Escape Rope. Sometimes Escape Rope gets you a win. So we'll go ahead and play that. Anything on my opponent's bench is easily knocked out by Mewtwo's X-Ball at this point. Aromatisse gets knocked out. Jirachi EX gets knocked out, even with the Psychic Resistance, since there's already 10 on it. And just like that, Forretress takes down what I think is an actual archetype now, an Aromatisse Mega Kangaskhan deck. We never saw Mega Kangaskhan actually coming out, but hey, sometimes you take what you can get. And that Sableye never even got knocked out either, even though it had a life due on it. So Forretress, and had a little help from Mewtwo, but Forretress did a lot of the work here, and Devolution Spray somehow gets the win here on Bad Deck Monday over the Aromatisse Kangaskhan deck. I don't even know what to say about that, except, hey, that's Bad Deck Monday for you. Like I say, you never know what happens, or what's going to happen on Bad Deck Monday. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will certainly have some more for you soon. Also, happy Memorial Day. If I probably should have mentioned that earlier in the video, but oh well. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.